There's this saying that you die twice, once when you stop breathing, and again when your name is spoken for the last time. But in Anthem's case, it's somehow managed to die 3 times. Anthem stumbled out the door after a rushed development, and players were greeted with endless loading screens, crashes, repetitive gameplay, a disjointed story, and an endgame so thin it felt like half the game was missing. The second death came in 2021, 2 years after its initial release date, when BioWare officially cancelled Anthem Next. This was supposed to be the big revival, the No Man's Sky style comeback that would fix everything. New loot, new structure, new missions, a whole new vision. For a while, it gave fans hope that Anthem might actually become the game it should have been. But then EA quietly pulled the plug. No big rework, just a blog post saying, yeah, we're done. The third and final death is happening now. The server shutdown is here, and I imagine it will be the last time we ever speak of this game. And this is because Anthem is online only. Once EA flips that off switch, the game doesn't just stop getting updates, it stops existing. There's no offline mode and no private lobbies, and no way to revisit Fort Tarsis or fly a javelin ever again. A launch that collapsed, a revival that never happened, and now a world that's about to vanish forever. And that's why I'm here now, platinuming Anthem before it's gone forever. I didn't really know much about this game when starting it other than the bad reviews, and being able to pick it up for only £1 whole, it's clearly a game that's been cast aside as unwanted. That being said, I went in with an open mind. The guide estimated I'd be sinking around 70 hours into this, and if I was going to spend that much time here, I wanted to at least try to enjoy it. So stepping into the ranged javelin for the first time during the introduction, things actually felt solid. The fire effects still looked great, the gunplay was responsive, and it didn't take long to get a feel for the flight mechanics, which if we're being honest, is the real selling point of Anthem. You can see the game BioWare wanted this to be, and what we were all promised, and that saying that surrounds Anthem feels echoed once more. Wasted potential. Story-wise, I didn't really pay too much attention. I got a general gist of what was happening, but like a lot of players, it just never really landed for me. After surviving the Heart of Rage, the game immediately jumps forward 2 years. And after that time skip, the game finally lets you slow down. For about 5 seconds, because a world-ending cataclysmic event is taking place. To be fair, the set pieces here look great, and it is a real highlight. Once that's all dealt with, the first trophy pops, marking the real start of this journey. Now we're free to do as we please. Kinda. In Fort Tarsis, there's loads of NPCs to speak to who don't really have anything of value to say, and you can do missions for them that will slowly unlock more of the game's features. It's where it all just blends into one, to be honest. Missions just don't differ much from one another, and the structure stays mostly the same no matter who you're helping. You fly out, clear enemies, defend an area, collect something, and then head back. Repeat that enough times, and the characters just stop mattering, because the gameplay never really changes with them. It's not that any of this is broken necessarily, it just lacks identity. Everything blends into one stretch of similar objectives, held together almost entirely by the flying. And once you notice that, it becomes hard to unsee it. Truthfully, I think I felt a bit like this when playing Mass Effect 1 for the first time in 2021. Of course, the world building and characters were far more interesting, but that carried the overall game because some of the missions were just a bit flat and clunky at times. Now, I do understand that's not the main appeal of the game, but that's just how I felt. And don't get me wrong, it's still a much better game despite releasing 12 years earlier, but for me, it highlights a recurring BioWare issue that Anthem really struggles with. Segueing us to probably the biggest issue Anthem has. It's not necessarily that any one thing is terrible, but nothing ever goes deep enough to carry the rest of it. There's not much point in breaking down every individual mission, as I'd just be repeating myself. So let's skip ahead a few missions to where things started to become annoying. After just unlocking free play, you're tasked with the objective of completing challenges to open tombs to progress in the main story. This just sucks. I remember Hogwarts Legacy did something similar, where hours in you're suddenly told to stop and grind side content, and for me, it completely killed the momentum I had in it. I know I'm probably in the minority with that take, and it's not necessarily a big deal, but in Anthem, it's certainly a lot worse. So I'd now have to spend a few hours in free roam completing world events and doing monotonous tasks to carry on with the main story. In hindsight, that was light work compared to the post-game grind that awaited me, which was going to be this, but multiplied by about 20 times. I eventually did get all the tombs open, and a respective trophy for doing so, but here's where there is really nothing else to talk about in terms of trophies, as all I would do is start a mission, be it a main quest or a side quest, and complete it whilst making sure to use different weapons for the challenges, and repeat. And because all missions follow the same format, there's only any real enjoyment in the environments. Even then, they do all eventually blend into one. Honestly, this platinum just becomes more about endurance than anything. You've just got to keep playing, even if it's not that entertaining anymore. Especially in my case with of the looming shutdown. I knew I couldn't give up, or else it would cease to exist and the platinum would become unobtainable for me. Now, to be fair, I can find things like this almost therapeutic. Of course it's a grind, but I found myself able to wake up, stick it on for like 5 hours or even more, and just keep going. So it can't be as bad as I'm making it out to be, as there has to be some level of playability. In 2025, it doesn't suffer from being a broken game like Mind's Eye or Golem, just a bit mid. So as I reached the end of the campaign, I had trophies for completing weapon challenges. And these just involved 50 kills with 3 different weapons of each type. So assault rifle, heavy pistol, etc, etc. This grind I didn't find too bad, as I think I got lucky with drops, and it was one of the shorter ones. The grindier challenge is for completing 4 missions with each gear for each class, and this totally relies on RNG drops. By the end of the main story, I had completed the Ranger Javelin, but I still had Colossus, Storm, and Interceptor to go. With the story complete, all that was really left to do is side quests for some of the characters, whilst keeping all of the challenges in mind. And these side quests are basically all the same, but at least a little bit shorter at times. And this leads me to why I think Anthem failed. For casual players, it doesn't really grip you or offer enough to keep you engaged. And for completionists, past a certain point, you just get so sick of it. Something like Destiny, for example, can be repetitive, sure, but it still does a way better job at keeping both casual players and diehards engaged. Anthem never really figures that balance out. So that's honestly all there is to beating the story and all side quests. You don't really need skill, just the ability to do the same thing over and over for about 25 hours. But then, oh my god, it gets so much worse. The collectibles are a joke, randomly spawning ones that only appear in free play. So even though you've put hours into this game already, you'll most certainly be at 0 for all 125 of these collectibles. There's also 200 harvesting of alloys and 200 for plants, 85 of these runes, 80 writings, 10 lookouts. That's like over 700 collectibles. This fucking sucks, man. Like, arguably one of the worst collectible grinds in gaming sucks. And yes, I know there's probably some game out there with like 2,000 collectibles, but still, it's all relative. For some of these randomly spawning ones, the best way to get to them is to try and fly to one, and then keep flying to it and away from it. But even this doesn't work sometimes, and it's honestly infuriating. I'd say this takes about 15 hours on top of everything else. I could be wrong. But by the end of this, like so many, I was completely done with this game. Like, even if this game wasn't shutting down, there's not a chance I'd ever play it again. I did get somewhat blessed, as this trophy did glitch in my favour and pop early before harvesting all 400 alloys and plants. Honestly, it just felt so deserved. Oh my god, that's amazing. It's actually glitched in my favour. I still needed to do these two for that trophy. Sweet, sweet. Between this and the story, I had also explored all areas of the map, which typically only required me to find like one more location to pop each area's trophy. And there's 9 trophies related to this, so this was a nice little boost. After completing the Colossus challenges whilst grinding the collectibles, I then went for the Storm and Interceptor classes. And once again, I think I got pretty lucky with the drops whilst quickly joining other people's games. So although it was a grind, I quite like the structure of picking up a new item and then ticking it off my checklist, even if at times I was just spinning around waiting for the missions to finish. But finally, thanks to the in-game store of legendary items available for purchase, I could hit over 730 threshold of power, and this would take my Javelin to Masterwork rarity, which upon completing a mission would pop the last trophy I needed for this platinum, just in time for Anthem's 3rd and final death. So I've just crafted this grenade. It's an uncommon grenade at 34 power. It's not even that powerful, but it's taken me to Masterwork Ranger. I've got quite a lot that's quite high power, you know, in the 80s. And basically that means I can now platinum this game, apart from the connection errors. So all I need to do is play one mission. We can do a quick play, and that'll be the platinum. My journey in Anthem comes to an end. This is probably the last time I ever play this game. I think it's taken me about 40 hours, quite a few days in a row of grinding it. I actually, you know what, I got quite addicted to it in the end. It's not amazing. It's not. We all know it's not. But there's something about cleaning this game up before it ends that I quite enjoyed. I wouldn't say I'm happy to see it go. You know, I feel like this game should be able to be played offline. Obviously, it wasn't built that way. But it is going to be a shame that being able to fly around like this and take out enemies in such way, you know, that's going. And it's a sign of wasted potential for this game. And that's the biggest shame, really. It's finally over. Master Talent. Complete a mission with Masterwork Javelin rarity, which gives me a Grand Master. I actually enjoyed it. For the most part anyway. There's at times the grind was tedious, but yeah, for £1, it was kind of a bargain. Thank you so much for watching this far into the video. I really do hope you enjoyed it. It was a bit of a tricky one to make because, as you can imagine, Anthem's not really a game where the trophy list is all that important to it. It's more about the world and, to be honest, the reason why it failed. But for now, if you want to see more, you can click on screen to see another video by me.